turning clouds into mountains, hills into holes, oh, dancing between the lines of a moon. Oh, yes.
My name is Andaloro, and I'm the Volunteer and Donations Coordinator here in Jamestown, Colorado, and I'm also a resident of Jamestown.
And I'm Glenn Ledall, and I'm with Pawnee Seed, and we're here to support them, hopefully with some seed, and help them in the revegetation process. As Nina's learned, it's not a quick and easy, down and dirty process. There's quite a few steps, and that's what we're here to do, is try to help them in terms of to put back the native vegetation and some of the areas after they've rebuilt.
So our community prior to the 2013 flood was a tree-lined creek with lots of grassy areas, native plants everywhere, and when the flood came through we had a bit of a debris problem, and all the debris was stripped out alongside the creek and brought downstream. And so a lot of what we're dealing with now is some very bare, nutrient-less soil. And so what Glenn and Pawnee Buttes has been helping us with is to try and get some nutrients back into that soil, because we also have an erosion problem now too, because anytime it rains heavily, more and more will get washed away. So what we want to concentrate on is to put those nutrients back in and try and get the banks of the creek a little bit more stable, and some of the blank areas that we see around town to go ahead and put some root systems growing in those areas.
One of the challenges after a natural disaster is you don't know what the results are. We can do a soils analysis or a soils test, but we don't necessarily know what's going to grow, what's going to start. So what our goal is to try to first start to get some plants growing, see what we can get growing, and then we're going to start adding more of the native grasses, more native vegetation. As Nina said, they're planting some trees and doing some of those things. It's a process, a step of trying to rebuild, putting back some native vegetation back. But it's not just as simple as putting down some seed that will grow. It's a question of getting the microorganisms and the ability to help that soil grow plants. And that's what's important.
And I'd like to mention too that it's really for our community after this event, it's not so much just about the environmental factors of having barren land, but it's also the psychological aspect too that it has had on our folks. We all moved to this community because it's beautiful, and having these ugly barren lands has been really terrible for our folks. And so part of something Glenn and I talked about is that it has had a psychological impact, bringing grass back, bringing green back. We made a big effort in the springtime to do bringing beauty back to Jamestown, in that we had plant donations come to town. People were able to put those in the ground and really start caring for those. The trees made a huge impact on people moving forward in the recovery, because it was sort of the point where people were able to say, I'm going to choose what I do now instead of having to do all the things that I have to do to keep my life going. And so it has definitely had a major psychological impact on our people's perspectives on living here as well. So this is our town square. We used to call it Little Town Park, because we do have a larger park down the end of Lower Main Street. But this area was rebuilt after the 1969 flood, and it was a recessed, beautiful grassy area that was tree-lined along the creek, and it was also had some large trees around the perimeter of the park, but it was mostly an open field, and we used it for gatherings of all sorts, usually music gatherings. People were in this park every single day, playing music, hanging out. And this is going to have to be the last project that we tackle in town, because it's our staging area for all of our equipment, all of our materials, for the other major projects for rebuilding the infrastructure.
As we have seen, that it's not as simple as just throwing out the seed. Nina herself has learned the experience of the benefit of raking the seed in, but it's also about the timing. When do we put down seed? What seed do we put down? And it's trying to take advantage of Mother Nature in addition to our efforts, our labor, so to speak, in terms of the revegetation process. And so it is a step-by-step process of trying to get this back to where it was, or something new and better.